right, welcome back to the Quest for Success podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in once again. As many of you know, I have recently started my own business in the circular economy space. And through that, I've had the privilege to meet many other founders also in the space. And a few weeks ago, I got introduced to today's guest, Shanya, and she was so great. She was so fantastic and gave up so much of her time to have a wonderful conversation with me. And after getting off the phone with her, I was telling Jam about, this amazing founder that I just met. And we both decided she would be a wonderful guest to have on the podcast. So, Shanya, thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's also we are in a different environment today. We actually came to Shanya.
Yeah.
And, so thanks for having us in your place.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Anytime. Yeah.
So, Shanya, I know you might not have listened to our episodes, but basically the whole goal of our podcast is really, we understand that success means different things to different people. And we really like to unravel kind of how someone's journey has brought them to their own definition of success. And so I want to start on that note. What does success mean to you?
Oh my God. There's a few different levels. I guess I'm very high, like I'm very ambitious. So when I set out to do particularly this journey, the startup itself, success to me is beyond commercial. Obviously, like any business need to have that sustainable commercial level for it to be able to run itself. So for me, particularly for the fashion industry, I want every single fashion brands to be able to have revenue that coming from the re-commerce market, essentially, which means that they will be able to earn more with less. And that's mean the consumer would be able to have access with less cost and less waste. So for me, success is more of an impact. Like I want to be able to leave this planet better than how I come into it. So that's for me success.
Yeah.
In almost like career-wise, if I'm going to put any energy and effort into anything, I want it to create that sort of large-scale impact, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that, leaving kind of a legacy and ensuring that the world's a better place when you leave it.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a lot of pressure on yourself because you're like, well, do you have to? But I think there's two things that I usually live by, right? And I don't know why I grew up this way, but basically one thing is what I've just said. I want to leave the world a better place. Yeah. But also the second thing is I also feel like if much is given to a person, then much is expected.
Yeah.
So I'm fortunate enough to be born, healthy, mentally okay.
And sounds okay.
Yeah.
Seems okay.
So far. Yeah. As we go on, you'll be like, actually, no, she's crazy. And that's that. And then be able to have good education, be able to I'm just privileged in so many ways. Not to say that I am, the richest person or anything, but then within that ability, I'm also really realize that I'm actually quite smart. Okay. But you have to acknowledge the fact that
absolutely,
if you use your brain to full capacity, you can actually make a lot of difference to a lot of other people's life that potentially don't have the same opportunity.
Absolutely.
So I think that's kind of where I'm that's my North Star. So
Shanya, you mentioned re-commerce, fashion.
Yes.
So we want to know exactly what you do and bit about your enterprise.
Yeah. So what I do is I basically we have a startup. It's a software company. I work in the fashion industry for a really long time, probably maybe over 12, 15 years, realizing that noticing that almost that shift in the market, that the consumers are seeking more responsible way to consume fashion.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of in line with you're seeing this re-commerce economy, which is the rental, resale, and repair, which is almost like a secondary market essentially, is growing faster than any segment of the fashion industry. It's growing, 3 times faster than the new apparel economy. So, and over 60% of Gen Z and millennials has already participated in some shape or form. So you kind of see that like that's where the economy is going. However, the fashion brand is being left behind. Essentially, this economy is growing and benefiting from their brand equity, from their product, from their design, from their customer. But they're not taking control, or they're not actually seeing the benefit, or they actually have zero idea of how this economy works at all.
Yeah.
So there's that gap when I realized that there is a gap that like, and in order for this re-commerce market to become a real solution in terms of sustainability on a larger scale, brand needs to take over. They basically need to participate, and they need to be part of this journey and help grow that economy. So we build a software to make sure that brand can step in and participate in this re-commerce market as easy, without any heavy lifting in the integration, the technology, as well as the logistic behind the scene.
So when you're talking about re-commerce, so someone have no idea of what's re-commerce. So this is more, instead of buying, you're renting. Is that right?
Renting is part of it. So re-commerce is kind of almost like reuse. So we extended the use phase of the item beyond the first time owner. So the re-commerce is essentially once it has the first owner, once it steps into the second owner, that's when the re-commerce economy starts. So it can be rental through multiple people, or it could be resale, which is buy pre-love or sell pre-love. Repair as well is part of the re-commerce market. So then you kind of extended the use of the item.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like increasing the life cycle of something. And
Yes.
I think, it's something that's coming to the forefront of a lot of people's mind as we kind of shift towards this more sustainable mindset that everyone, even in the corporate world, everyone's looking to try and see where can they become more sustainable, because it's a real driver for a lot of consumers nowadays as well. Like,
Yeah.
they want to do the more sustainable thing.
Yes.
And so, I love this model, and it's something I'm trying to implement as well, because there's so much already out there, and so people don't realize how much resources and energy goes into making something.
Yes.
And, because of that, we just use things so materialistically. We buy it and then, I don't need it anymore, throw it out.
Yeah.
But people can't see the impact that it's having, because they don't realize how much is embodied in that product. And so this like re-commerce model is something that is going to become, a lot more, have a lot more focus put on it, because it drives that kind of sustainability aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. And apart from that sustainability aspect that it's driving, it also has that commercial aspect to it, that if brand is actually owning it, then you actually have more chance of actually earning more money. It become another revenue source.
Yeah.
But then in terms of consumer, instead of participating in the fast fashion or something cheap because you have limited budget, then you actually now grant access to good quality products, because you actually just need access rather than actually ownership. Or you don't need to be the first to use it. You can buy it secondhand. So then it will fit within your budget better. So I think in terms of, sustainability, it's also got that commercialization that attached to it, which is why I think that it has the most potential to become a solution on a larger scale.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about what you're doing now, but we also want to take a big step back and kind of figure out what are the things that got you to where you are today. And so we want to go, right back to the beginning, your early days.
Wow, how long do we have?
We've got time.
I am a lot older than I look, so yeah, cool. Okay. So I was born in Thailand.
Yeah.
So originally from Thailand. I moved to Australia after I graduate advertising, and basically came into the country. I know that one thing I love so much and passionate about it a lot is I love eating cake. So I know.
That's a shared thing amongst all of us.
I know. I love eating cake. And then I remember I came to Melbourne to study English, and I was just realizing that I want to be a pastry chef.
Oh, wow.
This is after I finished the advertising
Wow.
degree, and I was like, I want to be a pastry chef because I love cake. And then
Do
so
something you love.
I know.
And it's universe as well. Cake in Thailand and cake here as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, you know what? I think I was seeing it differently because when you grew up in Thailand, the food in Thailand is amazing. Oh,
Yep.
like literally.
Everyone love Thai.
Oh
food,
my
yeah.
God, it's insane, right? However, a profession like a chef or patisserie chef or all of these things isn't really a thing in Thailand where like they're not being celebrated.
Oh, wow.
Maybe when I was growing up, maybe it was that, but I didn't realize that it was like a good career. I didn't realize it was like this is a cool career that you can have.
Yep.
I just kind of because almost everybody in Thailand can kind of cook.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I couldn't really. But then I was like, I came here and then it was a thing. So I remember telling my dad, I was like, oh, I want to be a pastry chef. And he's just like, yeah, don't stop talking nonsense.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's just like, what are you talking about? And then eventually I was like, you know what? It's a thing. I want to go for it. I want to give it a try. And then, so I did patisserie for 2 years. And then I became a chef. And at one point in my career, I was at the head of pastry chef at the Hyatt Hotel.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was really cool.
In 2 years, you
Yeah,
came from nothing to
yeah.
wow.
It
a
was
5-star.
It was a lot of stress, I have to tell you.
Yeah,
there
I
was
bet.
so much of like different type of dessert that I have no idea what it was. To the point where also I don't know if this is a thing, but you know hundreds and
Yeah.
thousands? I don't know if this is Australian thing. I didn't know what it was. and I was doing this banquet at the Hyatt Hotel. Oh, am I allowed to say this? Probably can. And then last. So I usually was the last chef because dessert go out last, right? All other chef has gone home. It was me, and I was serving the last like 7 ice cream for the kid. And on the menu is say like this like honeycomb vanilla ice cream thing with hundreds of thousands. And I was like, what the fuck is hundreds and thousands? And I've got all the ice cream ready to go, plated, and you know like it has to go like quick, right? And then all the front of house were waiting, and I'm like, just take it. And they were like, we can't. Where's the hundreds of thousands? And I'm like, what is 100? Like, and then one thing that I look around the room, and it was like front of house, like overseas, back of house, like the kitchen hand, me, everyone was like, no one was Australian in that room, and I was like, I have no idea what it is. Like, I don't know, and because the kitchen was underground, I couldn't even like search for it.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit. I didn't know. And then like people keep yelling at me that like you have to get the 100,000. It feels like everybody know what it is. And then I literally like started crying.
Oh.
I was like crying and crying. I like run into the lift, like go to the bathroom and like cry. And I came back down and I was just kind of like have to like put my shit together and go, you know what? I don't fucking know what it is. Take the ice cream out. Just go now. And I just put like some sort of other fruit decorations or something on it, and like just gotta go, and it's gone. But like it was that, like I was a head of pastry chef, but I didn't really know much. I was really good at making things happen.
Yep.
And I was quick on my feet. I'm a good problem solver.
That's a really that's an entrepreneurial instinct that you had, right?
Absolutely. There'd be times where my head chef would just be like, here's a menu for this week. You got to make like 500 of this and this. And like, yep, cool. And I'm like, gotta go to the bathroom because the bathroom is like upstairs. So I went to the bathroom and goes into like the bathroom and like call my teacher and just be like, hey, like, what is this?
How do I make this?
How do I make this? Can you send me a recipe? And then like have
You'll
to
figure that out.
you figured it out.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like it was a lot of stress though. So which lead to the reason why after the Hyatt Hotel, I was like, oh, I need a break. I was working, I'm not joking, like, I don't know, over 80 hours a week. And the kitchen was underground. So there'll be, like, I'll go in before the sun's up. And I don't come out until, like, the sun's down. So it'd be, like, a good, like, 7 days that I would never see the sun. And I was going insane. Like, and I was seeing my head chef more than I was seeing my partner at the time. And we lived together. And I was like, this is not healthy.
This is not sustainable.
No. So I was
Yeah.
like, I need a break. And also because I was in charge, I wasn't learning anymore.
Yeah.
There was no one else that could have taught me things better. So I was learning
Yeah.
everything on my own. So I actually didn't really know whether this is the right way or wrong way. Am I supposed to cut things this way? So I was like, I need a bit of a break. And they were like, yep, cool, take a break. And then I was like, I still need a job because obviously, like, you know, I need money. So I moved into retail, like fashion retail really quickly. And that's when it's kind of remind me that I actually did love fashion. Yeah. I don't know if we talk about this on our call, but when I grew up in Thailand, I used fashion as a bit of my, almost like a bit of an armor.
Okay.
I grew up in a country where there was a particular like beauty standard of what
Yeah.
a girl's supposed to look like, you know, long black hair.
If you don't mind asking, which part of Thailand you from?
I grew up in Bangkok.
Okay.
So you've got that standard of like, you know, white, pale skin, long black hair, super skinny. And in an ideal world, you kind of want to look like half Asian, half Western, which is like, well,
Yeah.
I'm not half. So that's why, like, people get plastic surgery a lot.
Yeah.
And the conversation that was really common in Thailand was, you should get a nose job, or you should, like, I'm constantly being told to get plastic surgery so that I can look the best that I can be. So I grew up hearing that a lot. I was like, oh, I don't know how I still have, like, the confidence. Like, I look in the mirror and I was just kind of like, I don't really have a problem with my face. But I want to change the conversation because I don't want to keep hearing it.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
you can't be angry at people, like in Thailand, especially, it's like they're your mum friends or your dad, your auntie and all of this. They just want what best for you, really.
Yeah.
Without realizing that, you know, when you're not taught to actually love who you are or how you are, it's actually more damaging.
Absolutely.
It's,
Yeah.
Right?
I'm coming from a Asian background as well. You know, it's funny because I like Dylan's mom is Australian, so every time we go to Sri Lanka, very first thing these people tell you, "Oh, Michelle, you put on weight." You know, like first thing, right?
And they just like, they
Same.
think
Yeah.
that they're doing you a
And
favor. It's like,
It's actually improved version. Previously, like 20 years ago, they said, "Oh, you're fat." So now actually they learn, you know, not to say that word because they see the culture, right? It's kind of ignorant in a way because they don't really know the meaning, you know, that actually hurts someone. you
Yeah.
know. So they've been very authentic and genuine and telling that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it hurts, especially Australian person.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's actually, like, it is hurting for everybody, really. But I think they don't really, I think it's just ingrained in the culture. Like, literally, I went home in Feb and got out of a taxi. Haven't seen my mum for like a year. The first thing she said was also like, "Oh, you put on weight." And I was like,
nice to see you too.
"Hi." And then like literally, and then like after that, and she's not like, she's an awesome mom. Like, she's not like, she meant well. She's just caring. And I think it was because it's the first thing that you see of a
Yep.
person.
Yep.
It's like the body, the face. So then you kind of, it's the first thing you comment.
Yep.
Which is like,
Quite genuine.
yeah. So and then for me, that was kind of like, I don't want to upset people either. I was young. We're talking like I was in high school. So I was like, I don't want to upset people. I want to change conversation. And that's when I turned to fashion.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I start dressing really well, dressing really loud, like make it really
Yeah.
interesting. And the conversation shift is becoming, it's like, yeah, people commenting on my clothes rather than my face or my skin color or how fat or how skinny. And sometimes people would like what I wear or sometimes they don't. But it's my second skin that I can shift and change. So it doesn't matter very much. So I have that really deep personal connection with fashion. It helped me get through, you know, whatever I had to get through. Like I
Yeah.
didn't have a hard life, by the way. I was never bullied or anything.
Yeah, but everyone has their own
yeah.
own trials and tribulations that they have to go through.
Absolutely. Yeah. So for me, that was kind of a decision that I made. It was like, you know what, I like my face, but let's change the part that I don't like, is like how people are talking about it. Let's get them to talk about something else.
Yep.
Let's distract them.
Yep.
And fashion has been amazing that way. It made me feel really good, like confident and all of that. So I moved to Australia. Never really thought about it being a career or anything. But when I took that little break from chefing, went into retail, and then my job was to like help people get dressed and stuff. And I was like, oh, I'm really good at this.
Yep.
And then I was like, shit. And I really like that when I see people dress really well, they feel really good about themselves. And I'm like, oh. So then I did a quick short course of fashion business and then started my own label.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
I know. Insane. It's like, why? Started my own label in 2009, I think. Because I have the connection in Thailand. So I know that I can get it produced quite well.
Manufactured in Thailand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I didn't study design. So I actually had no idea. I just wing it, basically.
I mean, you've done so many things that you had no idea, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of like
That's
a
the
theme, right?
entrepreneurial-
Yeah.
yeah,
I just like, you know what? Let's do a collection. Let's go. The price point I want to pay. This is what I want to wear. Let's try it. And then, but in 2009, sustainability wasn't really a thing. But I do know that I want to pay people properly in Thailand because that's where I come from. And I would like start making things and then realize that like, oh, wait, this doesn't make sense for the price point that I actually pay, like want to pay. Because I also was like working alongside that. So it was like at this point I jumped back into advertising. So I work in a post-production company. I'm like, I can't afford good clothes that's been made well, that has people like being paid properly, and like that I still can't afford. And I'm like, well, how does this make sense for any other brand? And I was like, oh, maybe because they produce like in a large quantity, so the price can be dropped and stuff. I'm like, no, but it has to be dropped like more than 60-70% kind of things. So I was like, this doesn't make any sense. So, and then I start producing small collection, and then like it was selling out. But if I was thinking about like paying myself properly to do it, there was just no way I'd be able to pay my salary that I'm earning now. And I'm just kind of like, and do I want to increase the volume? And then I just realized it's like, you know what, you're not a designer. What are you doing? Yeah. So I was kind of like, and I'm like, all right, let's pivot into something else. But what I actually really like is seeing people get that enjoyment from discover something that work with them really well. So I moved into becoming a stylist.
Oh, right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't really know that either. So I took a short course. And then I was like, all right, let's see how we would do this. And at the time, I think it was still quite new as well. I think I shift in 2013. So it was quite new for like people to have website, understand SEO, like Google Analytics and like Google Ads, all of this. So I then has to like jump in and learn how to get myself like being recognized and all of that. And that was like the part, I think when I was doing styling, that was like almost the happiest of like when I look forward to go to work, because within a short 2 to 4 hours, I would see someone like transform.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you know how every rom-com has that makeover scene. It's super powerful.
Yeah.
It was amazing that like it's almost every session will end in tears. And someone would just be like, I never thought I could look this good. I now want it to feel like I want to go out. I want to hang out with my friend. I want more.
Giving that confidence. Yeah.
I know. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Love it. And a lot of people that comes to me wasn't like the rich and the famous. I wasn't dressing celebrity. So I get a lot of people that like, I've just, you know, got out of divorce, or like my husband cheated on me with a younger girl, or I've just got promoted, but I don't feel like I belong. I have imposter syndrome, all of these things. And I was just like, oh my God, almost every first hour, it's like a therapy.
Yeah.
You're like, all right.
Your therapist.
Yeah, let's
Fashion therapy.
I know, let's work this through. And then toward the end, it's always just like, actually, you know, I feel really good about myself again. So that was really good. And then in 2015, I came home from work one night with a bottle of wine, and I was like, I work in the fashion industry. I'm really fancy. And this is what going through my head all the time. And I was like, I'm going to watch a fashion documentary, you know, have a bottle of wine, and like, oh, really cool. And then I picked True Cost. I don't know if you heard of it.
Yeah.
Yep. So not probably in my mind, like in hindsight, I'm like, that's probably not the documentary I had in mind to watch, but I didn't know what it was going to be about. 2 hours in, a bottle of wine gone. I was in tears. Like, I was crying and crying and crying. And I was just like, oh my God, I had no idea that the industry was like behind the scene is like this bad.
Yeah.
And my job day to day is to facilitate that consumerism. And I was just like, oh, wow, you're actually not doing that great. And I think that was that moment. It's like, I'm now suddenly not comfortable in my second skin anymore. It used to be like the best friend protected me. Now I feel uneasy. Like, I help women on this side of the world feel really good about themselves, and then I exploit women on the other side of the world who already in like really bad condition. So that's just where it's like the conflict's happening. And that's when I realized that, like, you know what, you do have a power to be part of the solution. So let's look at what the solutions existing that you can push and promote. Turned out there was no real solution that I believe in, so I created one.
Yep.
That's so powerful. Like, just that like profound realization. Just like,
I was also drunk. It was a bottle of wine.
Maybe
yeah, but
the wine.
to have that realization and then to actually go and have it, like, go and do it.
Yeah.
Fair enough. It was just, I'm not doing the right thing. But then you turned around and you actually did something about it. And I think, you know, that's something which I'm hearing so much in this conversation. You know, you're an executor. When something needs to be done, you just go and do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably one of the key drivers.
She's not shy or, you know, worried about what's going to happen. You just want to get things done and try it out.
Yeah.
That's
I think a good definition would be like, I'm a problem solver. When I see a problem, I can't rest until I try and solve it. It's okay if I can't, but I need to like
at least try,
which is really hard when I have like a normal casual conversation with people. Because they will be like, can you stop trying to fix the problem? The problem. But that's just how I get started everything. And obviously launched the first version in 2016-17, pivot into Rentr today. So is it the right solution?
So
we're still figuring out.
So what exactly you started in 2016? Like,
okay. So that day I realized, okay, it's like, am I going to be part of this solution, or am I going to like continue doing what I love and what I'm really good at, hoping someone will solve it? And I'm like, you know what I can do now is like educate clients of different choices. Let's try that. And then realize really quickly that my customer doesn't want to hear it, because she came to me with her own problem already. She doesn't want to know that, like, by her feeling good about herself,
she's there for a therapy.
So she's like, oh, like, I'm like, okay, so that doesn't work. It's like I can see the number of clients drop. Because it's like, I don't want to come to you anymore. Like, stop preaching. So then I realized that, okay, and then there's another thing that I started to see is like, we would have like a budget of like $3,000 to $5,000 that we'll spend, and that's supposed to be a clothes for like the whole year minimum, right? So we'll do that in like 4 hours. But then 3 months later, the same woman will come back and be like, let's do this again. Every season. So it feels a bit more like, which is great for me, right? Because it's money. But then you kind of know that this doesn't really fix real problem. It's a quick injection of happiness that someone just wants. So it's not really about having to buy all these clothes, or like, I didn't really quite understand, like, what is it? The freshness. It's the freshness. It's newness. It's the excitement of having something new. So then start looking at, like, in the fashion industry, how can we have access to something new? Like how many other way? And then it's just like you either have to buy brand new or you buy secondhand. And buying secondhand back then isn't really even a thing. Like I wouldn't take my clients shopping secondhand because it was so hard to predict of what size and what style can I actually get it to them. There were some stylists that were actually really focused on like secondhand clothing, and I was just like, this is like not much.
So do they? Sorry for my ignorance. I don't really never been to a stylist. So
do you want a session?
So they come up with a budget, like saying, okay, I've got $1,000 I want to spend. Can you dress me?
Yeah.
Is that the?
Yeah. So usually there's like we go through a bit of like there's a form of like, okay, this is where you're at. Where would you like to be, and why? And like, who are you? What is your lifestyle? Are you a mom that chasing kids around, or are you a professional? Like, so then you can pick the right material, the right style. Like, because you're not gonna put mom in like, you know, silk dress, long gown, because they're gonna be
impractical.
Isn't it? So we work out exactly what works for you, and this is where you're at. What are you not happy with? Where would you like to be? And then you go, what is your budget? And my job is to make that budget go further as far as possible. In fact, when Zara and like H&M dropped in Australia, I was really excited because I was like, oh my God, I can stretch the budget even further without realizing, like, you know what I mean? My goal, exactly. My goal was just to make my clients get as much out of this budget as possible. So so basically that's what we'll do. And then I would go shopping the day before the session. Okay. And then I will put everything on hold in the store. So when we take her into the store, everything's already like laid out for her to try on, because we only have like 2 to 4 hours.
So you actually collaborate with the shop?
Yes. So we work with the brand.
So you're like a buying agent, like
in a way. So in a way, we like take clients in and we get discount as well. Okay. So often the discount the brand give, we just pay for my fee. Okay. So and then you'll go in and they will try things on, and then we work out like what works and what doesn't, what you're comfortable with and what's not. So, and then you're starting to see clients coming back every 3 months, and you're like, but we just shop, which is like, and so then when I realized that you have to buy brand new or buy secondhand is the only way to have access to something new, I then realized that so as a stylist, you also have like stylist friends that we borrow each other clothes, because we have good clothes and we go to events a lot. We go out and all of this. But because we're all stylists, so we kind of like, we like each other clothes. We borrow that. And I was thinking that like, can I replicate this sort of relationship on a larger scale? Would people actually borrow? And then I was like, would people borrow with stranger? Obviously, because these stylist friends are my friends. And then I went to one of the talk, which is a Cloud Press talk. It was in like sustainabilities and stuff. And I was sitting right next to this girl who has this really long, beautiful white pleated skirt. And the whole talk, I kept thinking about the skirt. I was like, it's a really beautiful skirt. And at the time, I also have like a party, costume party, like a white theme to go to. So I kept looking at it, and I was thinking that like I want to ask her where she got it from, because that would be perfect for the outfit that I want to go to, right? And then at the end, everyone was like drinking, mingling, and then I went up to say, hey, just wanted to like compliment you on the skirt. I really like it. And then she's like, I feel really bad because I'm here like listening to all this sustainable talk. This skirt is like H&M or something, like it was like one of those fast fashion brand. And I was like, oh, okay. I really like it. It'd be perfect for this. Like, I'm looking at something like this to go. And then she goes, do you want to borrow it? This is a stranger that I met at an event, right? So she's like, do you want to borrow it? I'm like, okay, that's kind of like ticking my validation. And the small, I'm like, you know what, let's take it a bit further. I'm like, yeah. So exchange number. And then like she sent it to me 2 weeks later. I didn't end up wearing it because it was too long on me. 2 weeks later, I texted her, and then like we met at a coffee shop, give it back to her. And then like we just sort of like stay Facebook friend kind of thing. And then I realized if I make this process really easy, maybe I can do this on a larger scale. So then, knowing me, went straight to like an app agency and go, I wanted to create a Tinder app
Yep.
for Style Sister.
Yep.
So if you can look like you can in your local area, you can look at all this like girl, and if you like each other wardrobe, you can click in to see more of the wardrobe, and then you can borrow each other clothes for like 5 weeks at a time. And they were like, amazing, love the idea. I think this will take off. This is awesome. It's gonna cost you $250,000.
Wow.
And I was like, I'll be back. Never went back, obviously. And then I was like, oh, I think it's got something there. I don't know what to do. Then I talked to one of my friends / mentor, and he was saying that like, use current technology to validate it further before you spend 200 grand.
Yeah.
I'm like, makes sense. So then I create a Facebook group and invite people to upload, like create their profile, upload their photos and all of that. And we've got like 80 people joining, but it was really clunky. It was really hard to manage. And I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do. And then I met a guy who's like a code developer at an event, and I kind of pitch it to him and go, hey, do you want to come and do this with me and create? And this at the time, there was no like, what do you call it? Like a marketplace template.
Yeah.
So there was none of that really around. So I was like, I don't know how to create this. So, and he was like, oh, look, I'm not really into fashion, blah, 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 not really interested. And then I was like, that's cool, that's fine. A week later, he called me up and he go, I mentioned it to my wife and she forced me to join. She was like, you're stupid, you have to do this. And then so yeah, it kind of like we got together and then we were building it out. And I think because he was doing it like outside of his work area, like it took forever. And it's just like, and it never actually like, it was so close. And then it's just like, he's like, oh, like I've got my kid and all of this thing. And eventually I think it was probably like 10 months in now. And I was just kind of like, mate, all I want is just like the simplest version to validate. The hard part is after this launch. So then I decided, I'm like, okay, I don't think you're right for the project at the moment. Yeah. Maybe later.
I can't wait that long.
Can't wait that long. I don't know when. And because of that, it forced me to look for other way to do it. And then I just actually, you know what? I'm going to build this myself. So I went and learned, didn't learn coding, learned very basic coding. And I'm like, oh, it's going to take me like years to be able to build that. So then I basically learned how to hack software and patch it together. Yeah. And then like kind of got one version and then just roll it out.
The truest sense of an MVP.
I mean, Shanya, this is very interesting. I mean, you're such a special person, but I'm doing this for so many years now, right? Realizing we are very similar. You know, we gone through a similar journey, and I can see Dylan's doing exactly the same thing. Because the nature of us, you know, we want to get it done like now, right? You know, and we know other people don't have the same passion and they can't visualize what we see, right? So then you get frustrated and you want to trying to build it, and then you realize maybe that's not the way to do it, you know, but it's going through the same circle.
I know.
It's interesting.
It was, and with that, it was just kind of like, I just wanted to be out in the market to actually see.
Test the market. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to see what people behavior is going to be like and all of this thing. And then I was just like, I'm sure I can do this. Right. Like, and I've always been like super passionate about technology. I think that's one thing that like I pick things up really quickly. I'm not one of those that's like I don't buy like the newest iPhone, or like I think I was the last person on earth to have a laptop. Maybe not. But my first laptop, I picked it to match my shoes. It was like
you are a true fashionista.
Yeah. And like my brother looked at it and was like, what is the spec? I'm like, I don't know, it's pretty.
Match my shoes.
Match my shoes. It's like half the size. And he's like, this is useless. So I eventually built it, patch it, kind of thing, roll it out. And then, but at the time I was also able to loop in another like creative director to help me like with marketings and stuff. So I was fortunate to, like, one of the things is always, I can always inspire people to, like, believe in this, like, insane goals and ambitions. So, like, I always get, like, really good people to come along the journey. And so he helped me, like, build it out and like, we roll out the campaign, all of these things. So within the first 3 months, I think we've got about, like, 500 active users.
Wow.
Sorry, no, 500 users and about, like, maybe 100 active user.
Wow.
So it was exciting. And every month we'll create, like, a photo shoot.
Yep.
So people can bring in their clothes and we'll have the models on standby, and people can shoot, like, they can be model themselves or we can have someone else model it for them, because one of the issue of marketplace often is, like, the clothes is not being presented nicely.
Yep.
And then you just kind of like, this is shit, I don't want to borrow this, even though it's, like, a really awesome piece.
Yeah, it's the same issue that Airbnb had.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Actually, you know what funny? This jumper that I'm wearing, and not actually intending to be talking about this, but this was, like, in the first round of collections. Yeah, and I'm still wearing it. So someone actually was, I don't know if she's going to listen to this and she might ask it back. Lisa Mitchell, I think. She was a singer.
All right.
Right. Yeah.
You know her? Like,
the name
dollar.
rings a bell.
Yeah. So she was, like, participating. So she gave us, like, 5 pieces and stuff, and to be part of this collection. And and, like, everyone took it back once we, like, roll out to, and she's never, like, asked for it back. So I'm still wearing it.
So how did you actually fund this early days of your venture?
Just bootstrap, just me, because it wasn't high. I mean, I
Not
built
capital,
no.
huge,
So we asked everyone for favor to do everything, literally. And I was like, I owe people so much favor. Trust me, like, it would take me a lifetime to, like, pay it all back. But then we get to about, I think maybe, like, 3-4 months, 5-6 months, and then I kind of starting to see the disconnection between who would be borrowing it, who would be lending it. And it's starting to become a bit of a hustle for someone who had lots of good clothes and not really borrowing. So they're like, I either have to ship it or waiting for someone to come and collect it and all of this. So then they will start sending clothes to us and be like, can you manage it?
Mm-hmm.
And more of that start to happen when we do photo shoot. People just leave their clothes there and be like, you guys just manage it. And then if I want something back, I'll let you know. And it's getting a bit easier for people that want to borrow. So they can borrow from different people. From just us, right? And that's when we realized that, like, we need to monetize this and then pivot into the second startup, which called Closet.
Okay.
And the Closet was basically say, all right, we're going to collect all these clothes, put it into capsule collection, use my styling skill, and then people can actually rent that for, like, 5 weeks at a time. And I was like, oh, would people do this? Let's see if, like, if I create, like, 20 capsule collection from real actual pieces, do shoots and all of that, would people actually pay for this? Or, like, would people be interested? And we roll out the campaign within 3-4 weeks. We've got 4,000 people sign up.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was like, holy shit, consumers ready.
So how did you done the marketing, like through, like, a social
Social
channel?
media? We put some budget behind it.
All
we
right.
do I think we talk about this briefly.
Yeah.
Put some money behind it, social media, and we did, like, competition,
Yep.
all of these things to just get the noise out a lot.
Yep.
And also, like, my background is advertising,
Oh yeah.
so I have a bit of idea. Like, if now I wouldn't be, like, half a good as, like, someone who's been doing it for a long time. Like, I have a rough idea of how it should be done, probably not as good as other people. But then it was like 4,000 people signed up. We've got over 1,000 items sent in. It was insane.
You had any ambassadors, like, promoting what?
Not really.
Not
No.
any famous.
No,
people
well,
behind?
apart from Lisa Mitchell, who never got her clothes back. No, I don't think so. It was purely, like, literally just, like, ad campaign and social media, and it wasn't a long period of time either. We were only doing that for, like, a few months. Like, so we can see the people willing to pay straight away, and clothes were coming in, but also, like, you also, like, would not started to notice what is going to become an issue next. as well.
Yeah.
For us, it's like scalability. Everything come into one size. So when you put them into collection, like that is just one size that a small margin of your target would fit. And
Okay.
all of these things. So then you start to realize inventory would become an issue
Yep.
when you scale this up.
Yep.
And then you like start thinking, well, who's not going to have this inventory issue? Then you're like, well, brands not going to have an issue with inventory because they have all the sizes.
Yeah.
And they have all the clothes,
Yeah.
more than anyone in the world. And at the same time, I had one of my mentor kind of like, hey, you're growing really fast, doing really well, amazing. And by this point, by the way, we still haven't made like, this is pre-revenue,
Yep.
no money.
Yep.
I'm still like,
Yep.
funding this.
Yeah.
I still work full time. And my partner's
It's a hobby project, sort of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And my partner's still like doing all the designs and all of this. So it was just, it's been years now.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that I also have is grit. You
Yeah.
absolutely need it to the point where you're like slightly delusional, I think.
Yeah.
Or a lot delusional. It's either way you look at it.
You need to have that, you need to
Yeah.
believe in it, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's
Yeah.
not
and-
really delusion. Like, you need to.
It's you kind of believe that like it's actually sending you signal, and those signal like excite you
Yep.
and get you somewhere.
You feel good. It's gonna happen. You have a feeling. Yeah.
So then my mentor asked me like step back a little bit and ask yourself, is this still answering your why?
Yep.
Like, do you still remember why
Yep.
you decided to leave the job that you was good at and really excited about? And then I realized that I wanted to create change on a larger scale. And there's a lot of signal that this could be. But the only way that it could actually truly be is if I can get the industry to actually embrace it
Mhm.
and drive it and participate in it. So Cold Closet actually never went live. We actually apologized to 4,000 people, sent 1,000 items back, apart from this one, obviously. And I started building the MVP of Rentr myself again. And and that was 2020.
Why did that shift happen from one thing to other? Like, why did you decide that?
Because I realized that if I were to keep Cold Claw running,
Yeah.
it would become a business of its own.
Yeah.
And pivoting from that point to what I actually want it to be would be harder.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like at the time, I don't know if we talked about this last time, but at the time, this is like toward end of 2019, I had a major breakdown. So it was kind of like you can't do both.
Yeah.
You either you have really clear vision of what you actually want to do.
Yep.
And you go for it. And for me, it's like Coca-Cola would have gone to be a business of its own, and I think it would have been successful in some shape or form. But it wouldn't be the business that I actually
Mm-hmm.
want.
Yep.
I don't know. I didn't continue, so I have no idea. So at the time, I also was working full time. I have this, and I have an opportunity to start something else. And with Rentr, when I first started, I had a co-founder.
Okay.
So it was kind of like I either have to fully commit it to with that co-founder
yeah.
as well. So it was kind of like, and I had, I think it was a bit much.
Mm-hmm.
Mental breakdown happened. So then you kind of like, okay, you need clarity. I think you push your body too far now. And my boss, who's like super like understanding and supportive.
Yeah.
Always know that I have a startup and eventually one day I will step out and do my own startup. But he's also like,
Yep.
you actually need to go see someone. And like I cry for 6 hours straight at the airport. It was pretty insane. And
It's something like I feel like it's kind of common for entrepreneurs as well, because it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. They try and take on the world. They have this huge vision, but at the end of the day, one person can only do so much.
It's a reality check, I guess. You want to do so many things, and then you realize, I can't do it just by myself.
It's not physically possible. Like,
Everyone go through the same journey.
Yeah,
like,
right.
it's
Did you
interesting.
have you had that?
Not yet, but I know it's coming.
It's coming, right?
I've had other people, like other entrepreneurs, tell me
Yeah.
like they've gone through similar things. It looks like they're doing super well from the outside.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you talk to them again, they're like, no, I've taken a step back.
Mm.
And you're like, oh, you were doing so well. Like, why have you stopped? But then, hearing stories like this, you start to realize,
Yeah, Shanya, that's the thing, right? Like, I mean, I'm doing business over probably close to 20 years now, right? So even I have a very kind of mature business established. That's quite normal, Sometimes you get up in the morning, you feel really down. You don't even know the reason. You
Yeah.
feel down, So that's something we all go through.
Mm.
One of the episodes that we were talking about how we self-motivate ourselves, because so important, because you're pretty much driving this, right? So you need to be positive.
Yes.
If you're like a downer, if you're looking at everything negative, you may not have that support to pick your game up and do that. So I was telling Dylan, sometimes some mornings I feel like great to be me, like have that feeling that bottle of wine moment that you had.
You mean drunk?
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like sometimes we have to pick that game up.
Yep.
And it's so important
You have to
because
switch. Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to have that switch in your brain. It's so hard. It's sometimes
hard.
really hard. Yeah. So did you go through breakdown and stuff?
not breakdown,
Mm.
but here and there, you get
The
like,
moment. Yeah.
I mean, even now, right? Like
Mm.
that's what I'm saying. Sometimes you feel like, man, because we have a plan. Plans never go, the way that you want it, right? So
Nah.
they always hiccups.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you
yeah.
have hiccups, I mean, I guess doing this, going through the same experience for many years, you react much better now
Mm.
than when you like early days. I mean, I'm pretty sure you're doing the same. But we all gone through,
Yeah.
like or going through, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that's part of the entrepreneurial journey, right?
I think
Yeah.
so, to manage that stress.
yeah,
and-
one of our
yeah.
previous guests actually said, doing this for so long, he's become like numb to the stress.
Oh my
Almost.
god.
So I think it's like it's kind of a reality check.
But
as
if
you
he's
said.
numb to the stress, does that mean he's like numb his emotion in general?
I think it's like you are in so many situations, you kind of just adapt.
Mm.
And so some of that, those tough times, you learn to become more resilient and
It's true.
like take charge in those moments.
Yeah, it's so true. Like, think back to that 2019 when I had the breakdown, to where I am now. I have had a few more, but your stress threshold
Yep.
go up and up
Yeah.
and up and up, and I think you just kind of like you manage it better, and as part of entrepreneur, like you kind of like the high is so high,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
the low is
Yep.
insanely low. So yeah, it's just part of the journey.
Yeah. And is there anything that you think like spurs them on, like triggers them? Like was for this like early one, was it, this decision, which way do I go? I could stay down the path that I'm on now or go into something to have a bit more impact.
Yeah. I think it was that. And also it was, I think I always have that that financial stress as well, because you didn't like you weren't really able to like everything I do, and I work full time, but I didn't have like I wasn't earning $500,000. I wasn't a CEO. I was just working. I'm
Yeah.
earning like
A modest wage.
modest wage,
Yeah.
just like a normal $70,000-$80,000 a year, and then like I pay mortgage, I support my family in Thailand, I pay rent, I pay for food, and it's like that's barely anything left, and then
Yeah.
I still have to fund my startup as well. So then, and you also want like a holiday once a year, all of these things, and you have that. You also have like when you have full-time job and you have this, you always at the crossroad of like you can't just have a normal life with like you can.
I'm so glad you said that because I've been having that a lot.
Yeah.
It would be so easy just to go back to my job.
It's right. and there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's literally, I'm not saying people that just have a normal job is like not doing whatever they're supposed to do. I now realize though that even if that time I call it and go, I'm just gonna have a normal job, it would only be a short period of time, and there will be something I want to do again. I think it's just in you that like you want to build.
You're different.
You're
different.
You're just a builder.
Yeah.
So you want to build something. So I kind of realized that point, like, okay. So I think at that point it was that I either continue this. So it was a stress of like, do I continue this? Or also it's been a lonely journey. I've been doing this a lot on my own. So then when I had an opportunity to have a co-founder to start Rentr, I was like, oh, like I want someone there to actually strategize it with me, to actually take some of the pressure off me. So making that call was really hard. And I think at the time work was really busy. Yeah.
And then so, you know, starting Rentr, what was that process like?
It was kind of go back to every single time I started something, I have to figure it out. How do I validate it?
Yeah.
So, and validating it with brands is harder because now it's not just consumer tried, and there's a lot of forgiving. This is us integrating onto a fashion brand website. You can't fuck it up.
Yeah.
So I have to figure it out what that technology looks like and build MVP myself because I didn't have any money to pay anyone. And then literally getting brand allowing us to do that. So.
And how did you go about doing that? Getting your first few brands on board? Was it through connections that you had in the industry?
It was all, So my co-founder at the time, she works in the industry for quite some time. She was a buyer. So she was just like, have a lot of connections. So then she was able to like get some of the brand that she quite familiar with to get talking to us so we can gauge their interest. However, when we first launched the solution, it was 2020 March. And literally we were supposed to launch in a big way at the Legacy Summit, the biggest like sustainability like conference in Sydney. And it got shut down because of COVID. So all the conversation, everything that lined up, everyone just went into like survival mode. So no one was doing any innovation. So we were like, oh shit, there's nothing we can do. But in hindsight, we didn't have any like operation costs. We didn't have office. We had nothing. Both of us has full-time job. So we were kind of like, all right, let's just work on this
in the background.
So toward end of 20, a couple brand were kind of like coming back in and kind of like, okay, hey, we want to pick up the conversation. And sort of like beginning of 21, I launched with 3 brands with the MVP that I built. Which works. So then we're getting some like orders and stuff. And then I realized really quickly that like, this is going to break. It's not, and I was like, oh my God. So I'm like, this is going to break. But we're now getting, brands are talking, people are interested, things are starting to come to back up online kind of things. Like people are like coming back shopping again and all of this. Events started happening again. So that's when I realized that like, I do need money. And I need someone to build this out properly because it's just not going to work the same way.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's when I start looking for investment and like grant fundings and all of that. We applied for MVP grant. We've got our first $25,000. And that's when I got my, I got in touch with my now CTO, and he was like, really believe in what you do. Obviously, this is not enough for us to build anything, but I'll do it for you. So from day one, he was like, at one point, literally we didn't have any money. I was paying him like $250 a month.
Oh,
damn.
wow.
Yeah.
I know.
He believed in it.
He believed in it. And at the time, there was no equity like offered or anything. He's just like, and I think for him, he's just kind of like, you know what, I want to see, like for him, it's like taking equity doesn't mean anything. He's just like, unless it, like if it's dying, like what's the point? So we grow together that way to the point where I did actually ask him, I'm like, hey, I want to give you equity now. And like, I actually want you to be a co-founder.
Yeah.
And at one, and during that time, 21, my actual original co-founder like exit. So we basically went separate way because she also had a digital fashion company on the side and it's got accepted into the New York Fashion Lab.
Oh, wow.
So she was like, oh, can you close Rentr and come do this with me? And I was like, I can't. I believe in digital fashion, block text, all of this. Let's say, blockchain and all of these things so much. But I feel like Rentr is a bit more of the need of like the solution, like immediately kind of thing. So we went separate way. We're on good terms. She's still on like cap table, but then I was running it on my own. But yeah, and then I started looking for funding, and yeah, we got our first funding in October 21.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And then from there, how did you?
It's smooth selling, no.
Yeah.
No.
How did you, take this kind of proof of concept and kind of just start to grow it?
It's been a journey, to be honest, and it is still, because no one really know how to incorporate re-commerce into their business.
Yeah, it's a totally
And
new thing.
It's so new.
Yeah.
We don't really know either. So maybe to cut this bit out. But
Yeah.
No, but that's a nice thing as well. You're going on the journey with them, right?
yeah. Some brand though, do you kind of want you to know everything
Yeah,
before
yeah.
they're
Yeah,
like,
but also fashion brands, like they're kind of old fashioned as well, right?
oh my God. Yeah.
like any new things, I remember this is a while back, we talking to all these fashion brand for them to have their products online.
Yeah.
This is probably not even far, like maybe 10 years ago, right? And they hate the online thing. They're
Oh my
saying,
God.
we don't want to have our products online. That pretty much devalue our brand.
Same conversation today. Oh my God.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You know what? Like my dream is to be able to talk to Tobias, Shopify's
Oh yeah.
founder.
Yeah.
I want to, like, I'm listening to his podcast at the moment. I want to know the struggle of getting the brick and mortar moved to online. I want to know what that's like.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, because I'm like, I mean, I've got the early adopter who's interested and exciting. Like, we've got more and more interest coming, but it's like, it's still hard for them to fully understand that this is where your consumer's going to be. You're going to want to be part of this. But why did you get people online? Did you have a platform? Or was it
this is around 2008, just after 2008, when we were working with many loyalty programs like Qantas. So we wanted to bring brands like Oraton onto Qantas, and initially they pushed me out, like say, no, we don't want to go. So then reach out to many brands because that's what Qantas like to have in their program, and it was so difficult to convince them. I mean, it took me a while to convince them, and they joined with conditional, like, okay, let's do it very tiny. Even now, you're right, like even we're talking to some brands, they are pretty hesitant to like look at new channels, right? They want to keep working with their main retail, and like
it's all they know.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to try and explain that, like, hey, we don't know everything yet, but think about what potential it could be. Yeah. And like experiment. The problem is, right, with the brand, unless you're a founder or any company really, unless you're a founder, you kind of know that I'm probably going to be here, I don't know, 3 to 5 years. So I'll do what is best in that 3 to 5 years. You don't think long term.
Yeah.
Because you don't know if you're gonna be there. Yeah. So unless you're one of those, it's like, I'm gonna leave this legacy.
Yeah.
Or like, actually no, this is it. I want to be here until I retire.
Yeah.
It's a really different mindset, because you're like, well, I want this quarter to have the highest profit because that's look good on my book.
Yeah.
But you actually don't really think further beyond that. So I don't know. Like, it's
so Shanya, how do you see this business? I mean, what's the future for you? Like,
the future would be Shopify buying us out.
that's the exit.
Yeah. So again, the goal is to equip brand with a different business model that actually like get them to achieve commercial growth, but in a more sustainable way.
Yeah.
So that's just like, people planet, profit, hitting all the P. So for me, that's where I'm excited. I want, at least 60% of brands around the world to be able to offer like a full circle of like both brand new and re-commerce, participate in it in some shape or form. And we want to be that platform that people think of as like, oh yeah, actually I want to start offering rental, or actually I want to become a marketplace of my own brand.
Yeah.
Then, well, we can integrate Rentr, and then like that can happen really easily. So that's kind of what my vision is.
Yeah.
And I want consumer to be able to, like think of a brand that you love, and it gives you option to just, do I need this long term? Do
Yep.
I buy it? Or if I want it short term, can I have access to
Yep.
it?
Yep.
Yeah. And then once I purchase it, do I have to think about end of life? Can I just send it back to the brand? Would just sell it back to the brand, or send it back and they manage it for me? So when brand taking that ownership back, it's just mean they're taking that responsibility back as well.
Yeah. And just before we started recording this, you dropped a bit of a bombshell on us and said you started a charity.
Well, I didn't start
Okay,
it.
you're running a charity.
Yeah. So there's two founder who's like incredible. They run a studio, like a salon studio in Chippendale, and well, that's where I go get my beautiful hair done. And the first time I went in there, Alex, who's the owner, was telling me about the foundation of what he does. He actually, like, his dream was essentially to have this like awesome mobile salon. He tell me a story of he's also does a lot of hair for celebrity. He goes into film shoot, fashion shoots, and all of that. And then one time he was in the trailer doing hair for like celebrity and like actress and all of that, and he was like, it was such a good vibe. Like it was just everyone feel really good and all of this. And he's like, how do I create this vibe for people that don't have access to this? And there's so many people out there that just don't have access to this basic need, right? So then he started thinking about like, how do I create that vibe and all of this thing? And then one of his customer was like really fortunately, she's a massive philanthropist. So she basically gave him a first check and go like, the first trailer is bought, go for it. And when I met him, that was it. Like the trailer was bought, nothing was really happening to it. And when he was telling me about what he was doing at the time, I was working full time. I also have Rentr on the side, but I'm super passionate about what he does. Because for me, I want people to feel good.
Yep.
Like I want people to have, like, I think it's so important, because if you really feel good about yourself, you believe in yourself, it doesn't really matter what noises come your way.
Yeah.
Like you'll get through it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I want to be part of it. How can I help? And then at the time, because I've already got 2 jobs, so I basically offer the skill that I have. So I build out like digital platform kind of thing. I've got like the website, link, all of the domain, all of those like up and running, social media, and was kind of have it there, and we're about to go into like a crowdfunding launch and stuff. And then COVID happened. So the salon got hit pretty hard.
Yeah,
so they went into like survival mode. So we kind of paused everything. And then they coming back in like to start partnering with on a smaller scale with like Too Good Co. Every cohort, those women that go through Too Good Co. to learn about hospitality skill, front of house, back of house, and admin and all of that, would also get pampered. Like also like halfway through the course, they get like grooming session to learn about how to present themselves, and like purely just to make them feel really good about themselves. Those things start happening, and then I actually starting to see like real impact. We've got like 10-15% of the women that come through actually came back to the salon after they've graduated and got a job and wanted to be like a paying customer and like literally want to be part of it paying forward. And I was like, holy shit, we're actually making a real impact. And for me, it's all about impact, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, we need to scale this up, because at the time it's not from the actual mobile salon. They just come to after hour in the actual salon. And I'm like, how can we get this live, like on the road? And he told me that like, well, we're going to need $150,000 to fit it all out. And then because like it's just a shell, which is really sick ass dream, like super cool looking, but we need to fit it all out, and then we need to get it like on the road. And I'm like, okay, So I think it was August last year. I was like, you know what? The goal is to get this live by Christmas. I'll jump in and I'll help. And at this time, when I jump in, I was just doing Rentr full time. So I didn't have another job. So I was like able to like have a little bit more room.
Yeah.
Technically not, but
Yeah.
but I was like, it needs to be live in the community. All I want is for this to be live, and then they can run it. It's fine, right?
Definitely.
So I started fundraising for them, and then and that's when we had our original like builder, but he was quoting us like $150,000 and all of that, and I was just like, we're just not going to be able to raise that much money. I have a really good relationship with Oraton, the CEO, and I just kind of like, hey, you guys passionate about this? You want to help me do this? And then she was like, yep, we're in. So they donated like the first big check, and a lot of other company like HelloFresh. So I was just getting some fun in, and then we got to be live in December. And I said to Oraton that for that Christmas party, we're going to take the van out and we're going to pamper your team.
Oh, awesome.
So I have a deadline.
Yeah.
Like I literally just need to be on the road.
Yeah.
And then eventually we couldn't raise enough to actually get that first group of people to like actually build it for us. I didn't know what to do. So I called Nick from Orange Sky, literally just to pick his brain on like, hey, do you know any other builder like in Sydney that I can like talk to? I just want the first stage done kind of thing. And Nick was like, what do you need? Explain it to him. And he's like, okay, give me a sec kind of thing. And then that night he emailed me and say, so it needs to go live on like the 5th of December or something. And he's like, the weekend before that, I can gather my team. There's about 3 of us. We'll come up to Sydney and we'll finish it on the weekend for you. I was like, what? And they did. They came up 2 days. Literally, it was less than 2 days. And they finished the first stage for us. And then now, like, we're talking about the second stage and all of that. So he's been a really big part of the foundation. So, yeah, I do that as well.
That's amazing. There's so many things, so many different sides to you. It's really incredible. Believe it or not, we've been talking for over an hour, and so we'll start to wrap it up here.
I talk a lot. I'm sorry.
No, really enjoyed.
It's been incredible. We could keep talking, I'm sure. One thing I like to do is kind of pinpoint the ingredients, the little factors that have helped contribute to your success. And so I've written a few down here, and I think ultimately your goal is all about impact. And every time you're faced with a tough decision, you always go back to that. And I think that's really inspirational, looking back to what is your why, as you said, and making the decision based on that. And so trying to have as much impact as possible, I think that's one of your core strengths. And the next one is, just making things happen. There's a lot of people who, are all talk. I want to do this. I want to change the world. I want to have impact. Talk is easy, right? You're a great example of, okay, I want to do this. All right, I'm going to get it done.
Yeah.
Pretty much everything you've talked about. Oh, I want to be a pastry chef. Cool. Let me go and become a pastry chef. I want to do this. I'm going to go and do it. And I think being able to execute is a rare skill. And I think that's another thing that's helped you along your journey. And then I suppose the last one is continuous education. You wanted to become a pastry chef, so you went and did a course on that. You didn't know how to code, so you went and learned a little bit on that. Whenever you see a gap in your knowledge, you go and learn. And even when you were becoming a stylist, going and learning a bit about that, always, even if it doesn't look like it's going to have a long-term impact on you, just in the moment, just going, okay, I want to do this. I need to learn about it, and I'm doing that. And then the last one, I think, is long-term thinking. I suppose that kind of goes back to impact. You're always thinking about the long term, and you're trying to impact many rather than just a few. And
so that's more like aligned with your purpose, right? So you pretty much everything that you do, am I meeting my why? So, yeah.
Also, having said that, like I also happy with just, you know, to own like a wine bar or like a gin bar with a record playing as well. Like I could have that life too.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
And then I suppose to wrap it up, right now, do you feel successful?
I feel proud to where I am now. Not quite successful yet, I don't think.
What's missing?
I think if I can get out of that financial struggle and have a bit, the financial struggle would probably relieve me a bit more. And maybe if I can measure my impact a little bit more, like quantifying it a bit more, then I would feel that. I mean, yeah, sure, I'm successful to a point.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, you can't ignore everything you achieve, right? But I am proud of like how I get here and where I am today.
Definitely.
But not quite ready to rest yet.
Yeah.
Like, we're not there yet. Yeah.
I think every entrepreneur says the same thing.
Really?
Because they're, you know, they still haven't quite. It's always need to keep doing.
Yeah, but I also don't want to get caught up in that though, that like you're never going to be satisfied. So that's why I was kind of like maybe quantifying exactly what success is for me would help. Yeah. Because it's dangerous, right? To never know.
You got to know a bit of a, I know it's a journeys matters, but you got to know what's the
end goal.
The end goal. Yeah.
Destination.
Yeah, exactly.
But I definitely think, you know, you should be proud of what you've achieved.
Absolutely.
Because you've done a lot of, you know, fantastic things and impacting a lot of people.
Yeah, this is just a beginning of so many things, you know. You create the great foundation. I mean, it's just a matter of scaling it to the next level. So just believe in yourself. Keep pushing.
Yeah, we can't wait to see where Rentr goes. And if people want to check it out, is there a place that they can find Rentr?
Yes. So if you go on Get Rentr, RNTR, no E.
Yeah.
GetRentr.com. That's where you can see all the information on what we do. I'm super active on LinkedIn. So if you connect with me on LinkedIn, you most likely will see all the updates. Not very often, but yeah, it's all there as well. And I guess, like, you know, hopefully more and more you're starting to go to your favorite brands and seeing that button live on the brand. So then you kind of recognize and know exactly what we're doing.
Yeah.
Well, Shanya, thank you so much for your time and being so open and vulnerable as well, and telling us the real truth about your story. It's, you know, something tough that's really tough to do, but it's really genuine and authentic, and people appreciate that. So thank you so much. And
thank you.
We really look forward to seeing where Rentr goes and hopefully seeing it in the big leagues. And if you aren't already, please follow us at the Quest for Success Pod on Instagram and give us a 5-star review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And until next time, thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.